Now, fears of an environmental catastrophe in the Philippines are growing as oil from a sunken boat continues to leak into the ocean. The tanker sunk in bad weather off Manila on Thursday, killing one crew member and creating the risk of a major oil spill.
Oil smears the ocean off Manila's coast. The fuel is spilling from a sunken tanker which went down in rough seas last week. Some of the roughly 1.4 million litres of oil on board is leaking out. Coast Guard teams have been using sprays which help break down the fuel. Crews plan to siphon the rest of the oil from the vessel's hold on Tuesday at the earliest, but divers are attempting to seal leaking valves first. Local fishing crews want the government to hold those responsible to account.
The problem we have is that the oil is spreading across the ocean. I hope the government finds a solution right away. It's a big loss for us fisherfolk.
We are very worried for our livelihoods because all of the fish that we've been taking care of might die.
The Coast Guard is calling for the suspension of fishing in Manila Bay to prevent people eating contaminated fish. It's warning of an environmental catastrophe if the sunken ship's entire cargo were to leak.
And we can get more from Jessit Oanano. She's a Filipino environment and climate journalist who is based in the capital, Manila. Welcome to DW. Now, we hear that the Coast Guard's plan to deploy floating barriers to stop this oil from reaching the shore has failed. So can you explain to us what this means, both for the city of Manila, but also, of course, for all the marine life off the coast?
Sure. So speaking to reporters at a press conference this afternoon, the Philippine Coast Guard said that they are stopping the dispersants that they initially placed to contain the spill from the tanker based on a technical advice that it wasn't the most effective way to contain it. And instead, what they are doing is they are now resorting to the use of more containment booms, as well as floating booms that will hopefully absorb the spill that is coming from the sunken tanker off the coast of Bataan. Speaking to reporters earlier, the Philippine Coast Guard said that it is still verifying reports about the extent of the spill and whether it has actually already reached coastal communities or even extended to large parts of Manila Bay. However, we have seen photographs from journalists and environmental organizations and fishing groups of what appears to be shiny black oil slicks, which, as the government said, they are still confirming. What we are sure of is that the Coast Guard has said that the government has already tapped local governments that are surrounding the Manila Bay and coastal villages to report immediately to authorities if they see any instance of oil reaching the shores so that the authorities can immediately respond. Based on the press conference earlier, the Coast Guard appears to be positive that they will be able to contain the spill. They were able to seal at least 14 of the valves of the tank, including those that are not leaking. And the plan really is to begin the siphoning of the industrial fuel oil from the tanker beginning tomorrow, Tuesday, and to siphon at least 300,000 liters of oil for about a week's time so that hopefully the vessel will float to the surface and it will be recovered and taken back to the shore.
OK, so from what you're saying, there's a lot of effort being made and there are attempts to get any sightings of any oil to be reported. But of course, all of this is quite hypothetical, it sounds like. And I presume that the threat to the environment is also from the fuel powering the vessel as well as the oil that it is carrying. Now, given that several attempts to recover the sunken tanker have failed, I mean, what is the plan if all of this that you've just told us doesn't work? How are they going to deal with this potentially disastrous situation?
Well, initially, from our conversation with the Coast Guard earlier, they seemed positive that the scale of the catastrophe or of this event is already minimal. They have told us that from 12 to 14 kilometers of the coverage of the oil spill, it has reduced to about 2 to 4 nautical miles going south-southeast. But you are absolutely right. Even though that there are already measures to try to contain the spill, the reality is the spill has already happened. And so really the response here is to try to mitigate and prevent as much catastrophe from happening. What it means for the marine life in Manila Bay is that, it could very much affect the fish and production and fish catch. A lot of the fishermen have already voiced out their concerns that they would not be able to fish in Manila Bay. There have already been restrictions and bans in some areas that are already known to be affected by the spill. And really, the hope is that it would no longer spread out so much that would affect more coastal communities that really depend on the marine life on Manila Bay.
All right, journalist Jessit Oenano reporting there from Manila on this oil spill. Thank you so much for your time.